Hello, good morning. Hope you're all well and enjoying certainly if you're in Australia, you'll be enjoying the hot weather. Um, and if you're in the UK, it's bloody freezing, as I've seen. And so wherever you are, I just hope you're enjoying the season you're in. I often get confused. I mean, look, we are in what are we now? With January, and I'm still on that British I should be in winter season, and I'm not. So it's very confusing for me as a Brit, an expat living in Perth. It's it's quite confusing at times, to be honest with you. And even after nearly 4 years of living in Australia, it still amazes me really how different um, you know the southern hemisphere is with seasons, and the heat is astronomical. 40 degrees isn't unusual, whereas the UK, I think we possibly have had a 40 before, but it's not a regular occurrence, put it that way. um this week I wanted to talk about the book I've been writing. Now, this was my first book, which was called Echoes in the Hallway, and it's been really successful, and I've had lots of people buying copies. I've had to revise it a few times, so this one here was actually the second edition as such. And I've been look, it's a personal reflection of my childhood, and it's written in about 30 very short stories. And I suppose I chose to write in that way because my memories as a child are quite they're not very detailed. So the easiest way to do it was to pick different important events or journeys that I could talk about in a very detailed way, but equally very short. Because when you're younger, your memories are shorter, and I don't remember too far back too well. So 30 short stories was a great way of actually remembering events that shaped me as the person I am today. And thank you again to everyone who's bought a copy. It really does mean a lot, and the feedback I've had is great. It's not an exciting, how can I put it, in your Facebook. It's just a very nice collection of short stories from my childhood, and the stories themselves. The stories themselves prove that I led a very normal life, and my life became more abnormal as I got older. And yeah, I actually look back at it and I read it every now and again, and I think, oh, I could have said that differently, or I could have done this, or I could have done that. But actually, this is really what I wanted to say. Now, I'm currently in the midst of, well, I'm nearing the end of writing a new book, or the second book in that series, and it's called Out of the Hallway. And it's really, I suppose, Echoes in the Hallway was a reflection from about the age of 6 to 16, and this new one is from 16 to 26. So they're in 10-year blocks as such. So the next book is more detailed, and obviously my memories from the age of 16 onwards are far more prominent, should we say? And I've got some great stories to tell. So the stories are longer; they're not short stories by any shape of the imagination, but they're also not long. So they're about a very important time in my life. They're about a time when I was coming out as an individual, as gay, at a really difficult period in history, I would say. Not the most difficult for gay people, but certainly it was a time of rapid change. So when my feelings, when I understood my feelings, when I understood that I was gay, and you're probably talking about the age of, I don't know, 12. So you're talking about, what would that make it? 1983. And this was the time of HIV/AIDS. And it was a really, really, traumatic time, because I understood the relationship between that dreaded disease and my sexuality. And I think it affected me badly, very badly. I hated myself for being gay. I hated other people who were gay. I just wanted to get off the planet. I just wanted to stop the world. There were times I didn't want to be in this world, and it was very traumatic. It was an extremely traumatic time. Certainly not as traumatic as what other people were going through. But when you are coming to terms with your sexuality, and you're bullied and you're attacked, and look, I mean, these days at schools, you kind of come out at a really, really early age, and it's quite. Does it shock me? Yes, it does shock me in a way, because it never happened when I was at school. But am I shocked in a bad way? No, because I think it's important that as individuals we follow that journey, or a sexuality journey, whenever we are comfortable to do so, and whenever we want to explore that side of us. Because yes, I'm gay, but it's not the only part of me that's important. It's just a part of me, It's just it's a small cog, and I suppose children coming out gay 10, 11 years old is in itself quite, it's quite surreal for me. It's not something I would ever have thought about doing myself when I was younger. Even though I knew from an early age, society at the time would not have accepted me for being the person I am. Having said that, people knew. I didn't have to tell them. So there were signs, really were signs. I thought I came across quite, butch, straight, normal, average school kid, But I'm using that word normal in a very small way. I don't mean I was abnormal. I'm just saying I was an average school kid. That's what I thought I was. Other people saw me very differently. They knew I was gay, and I didn't even have to tell them. And that was quite telling, really. So when I left school at 16, everyone, all my peers, everyone, teachers, everyone knew I was gay. And that was incredibly, it was disturbing on one level, because I thought I hid it quite well, but I clearly didn't. But it was also reassuring at another level, that it was reaffirming the person I truly was. So the new book kind of follows my journey from school to college. Still wasn't out of college. So when I left 16 to 18, I was at Fareham Tertiary College in Hampshire. And I still wasn't out as gay. People knew I was gay. I mean, look, I was this child sat in lectures wearing a bow tie and brightly coloured shirts, jackets. And it's something I felt comfortable doing. And I mean, I kind of look back on it now and I do cringe a bit. I'm just thinking, God, you really did that? You really sat in a lecture and you wore that? And it was blatantly obvious that I was gay. It really was. I had some friends at college, not too many. I don't really speak to people from college anymore. There are some of them on my social media, but otherwise not. And I also had my first serious relationships at that time as well. And especially at the time sort of leaving college, starting work for the civil service, just before returning to university, I had a few, or a very important relationship. And that is explained in the new book. And I suppose that particular relationship, that particular boyfriend, he's still very much part of my life, funnily enough. And we were able to meet in recent times here in Australia, but he also has a connection. And it's a very strange connection because it's a connection with my one of my husband's best mates. And he was in a relationship with him, unbeknown to me. So the connection is still very, very strong. So I kind of explain the importance of that relationship in my coming out story as such. And then university, I suppose, that's when I did come out to other people. They were well aware of my sexuality. Many of them stumbled upon it by accident, really, because drunken student nights, gay clubs, other men in my life, I was very, very vocal about it. I was not hiding it anymore. And university really, really brought me out of my shell and made me I think, a more rounded, decent human being, but also a more anxious human being. I've always had anxiety, as you all know, but I was certainly more anxious than ever at university. And I don't know why. I think maybe because I'd come out and I was expecting to be battered within an inch of my life was one of the reasons. But obviously at the time, there was still laws in place that rejected me for the person I was, and it was still quite a difficult period until the Labour government won in 1997. So it was a really, really hard time to grow up gay, even then, and this was sort of the early 90s. I was bullied a lot, so I was attacked and bullied and all of those things, even then. And whether it was from people at college, there were housemates that I was in with at the time that didn't appreciate who I was, and I moved out, in effect. And that's when I lost touch with my second boyfriend. And shortly afterwards, I met my third. Now, I'd had other small encounters in between, but these are the important relationships that I concentrate on in the new book. And I think at that point, when I sort of left my student digs and moved in with my third significant other, I think that's when my life kind of spiraled, and it didn't go well for quite a while. Although I enjoyed life, don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed life, but too much, far too much, and it affected my education and all sorts. You know, when most kids or most people would have their rebellious stage probably in 15, 16 years old. But for me, it was kind of delayed because of the coming out thing. So it didn't happen until my sort of 20s, mid-20s. And that was part of the problem. And so it was 10 years too late. So at a time when I should have been building a career, I was once again dealing with my rebellious, or not once again, but I was dealing with a rebellious stage that should have taken place years before. But it didn't. So it also charts that course at university, and it also goes on to my final relationship that I'm in today, my fourth important relationship. And my movement, or my movement away from the scene I was on, the gay scene in Southampton, to a new life in Australia, where I am today. There were a lot of things going on in between. I mean, look, me and my current husband have been together 30 years. So lots happened in between. You know, we lived in Spain, we lived back in the UK, we travelled to Australia, tried to do it twice, didn't work. This is the third time lucky. So that book aims to explore that bit as I reach Australia for the first time. It won't go beyond that. So it goes up to about the age of 26, as I said, and there will be a third book thereafter. And this second book, Out of the Hallway, is probably the most important for me, because it holds the most important memories, the most vivid dreams, and it encompasses a lot of trauma, happiness, emotions. My emotions at that time was like that, and it affected me in many different ways. So I've asked a very important person in my life back then, who's still an important person in my life today, to write a foreword for the book, and which he's agreed. So I've sent him one of the chapters just to have a read over the chapter which is important for him and me together as friends. So he will have some sort of idea about the book, and I aim to get it out probably third quarter of the year. There's a lot of work that needs doing on it. I've got to edit it. I've got lots of other bits to add and write, etc. Echoes in the Hallway included lots of, I don't know if I can get one up actually. These are in black and white, but I have got colour books as well. But these included photographs that were generated through AI, because at that time there were no cameras. We didn't have cameras with us everywhere we went. So I used AI to generate photographs from memories, and they came out bloody accurate as they could. And that was an important part of this book. It was generating photographs from memories. The memories, the book itself, the writing is my writing. It's everything, it's every thought, it's very, very short stories. It's the way I viewed the world, my family, events, Christmas, all of these small, insignificant things to most people were very significant to me as an individual. There's another one there. used to go to the I don't know if you can see it actually, but used to go to the pub with my father and my grandfather in the 70s. I used to hate going to the pub actually, and now I love going to the pub. It's quite bizarre. I used to hate the cigarette smoke and all these things. So the photograph, I would write a short story. AI would analyse that short story and they would produce a photograph for it. And they did it pretty well. And I didn't really have to go over it again and again and again. So I know people go on about AI and how bad it is, but for me, it works extremely well. As long as you use it in the correct way. Do not use it to write stories, whatever you do, because that takes away from the person who's writing it. AI can do many things, but it cannot write stories from an individual's point of view. It cannot add those emotions. It cannot have empathy in the same way a human being can. So the fact that I've used it to produce photos is a great tool for me, because I didn't have photos at that time. And actually, when I look at it now and I look at the photos in the book, I'm actually taken back to that period, and that's kind of nice. It's kind of comforting, and yeah, it makes me happy. Really does. if you bought the book, thank you, as I said. When the new one comes out, I will let you know. But this is really sort of the beginning of it, and just to let you know that it's on its way. And I know a lot of you have been wanting this particular book more than anything, because it does come at that challenging time. And yeah, I just hope, well and truly, it's everything you want it to be. It certainly is for me. It's got a lot of polishing to do, but I'm very proud of it. So yeah, thank you very much. Take care, and I will speak to you all again soon.